Hello there, right here we got a brand new version for 1.19, the very first pre-release. That means every snapshot from now until the full release will be mostly bug fixes with no major updates in them. I will also be covering the previous snapshot since I was gone last week. We got a lot to go over, including secret cryptic messages, 1.19 features being cancelled, buffs to both the Warden and the Skulk sensors, and changes to light level for mob spawning. Leave a like and subscribe if you're 70% who haven't already. Now let's get into all the changes. The first thing they did with this pre-release is they changed the mangrove trees here in the swamp biome so that they're a little bit more spaced out, so it's a little easier to traverse the areas. It's not super cramped. Skulk sensors got a buff, so items that are used in the beginning, like pulling back a bow, will activate the Skulk sensor, as well as releasing the bow will also activate it. This applies to a lot of things that have start and finish, like shields, food, goat horns, crossbows, but they also made it so the Skulk sensors will no longer hear you if you're doing the same actions but in the sneak form, which is really nice. Playing a note block will now activate a signal of 6 for a Skulk sensor, and playing an instrument will do an activation of a signal of 15 redstone wise, giving us quite a bit of different things that the Skulk sensor can detect overall. Now we'll take a look at the more technical changes for this pre-release, and then talk about the previous snapshot as well as the cryptic messages and the cancelled features. They changed the spawning light needed for some nether mobs such as piglins, wither skeletons, endermen, as well as normal skeletons when it comes to the nether dimension. So they will now spawn in a wider light level range from 0 to 11. That means inside my beacon farm here, also which is used for my wither skeleton skull farm, and also my skeleton only farm, this allows so that these guys will spawn without having to worry about the light level being at 0. But before any little light nearby would stop them from spawning on here. This will also help the mobs spawn naturally in the world because there's often lava or like fire around and they can go ahead and spawn there. Now this also fixed some parity issues from like Java and Bedrock Edition, where like piglins would only spawn if the light level was 11 or less for Java, but in Bedrock it was 7 or less. This change shouldn't really have any effect on spawn rates or most mob farms. With the previous changes to golems and wardens, they were then able to spawn on stuff like glass, which golems aren't supposed to spawn on. This was causing my iron farm not to work, but it will work once again. They edited so mobs that are summoned by a spawner will now activate the Skulk sensor. They added in more precision for the Skulk sensor. Notice that before, when you would activate the Skulk sensor, it would only go by powers of 2. So they're activated 2. If I come forward, see, it only activates 4 now, and there is no 3. Now they added it so it can go up by 1 value, making Skulk sensor are better at determining exactly where the noise was coming from. Touch here my device, which can detect exactly where the noise is coming from. They also fixed this problem where if something would land onto the Skulk sensor, it would constantly activate it, meaning that whatever you do, and even if you do send out vibrations, it's not going to change the redstone signal. So now the Skulk sensor will pay attention to the most recent noise instead of the one that's on top of it. Swapping items in hand will no longer activate sensors. They now added it so placing on armor will activate a Skulk sensor, even if you're doing it within your inventory. This means my impossible trap prison will work once again. Placing armor on will once again play sound. If a villager would then be converted, the catalyst would think that all of a sudden a mob died and it would try to activate. And since the catalyst is only supposed to go off if a mob actually dies, they went ahead and removed this. They added it so frogs will no longer continue to jump when being tempted with a slime ball, and instead will just walk up to you nicely. It made frogs smarter, so now if you try to tempt them, even after you hit them, they will no longer continue to come after you. And the goats can no longer be tricked this way. Despite frogs being tempted by slime, tadpoles weren't following this rule. Now they added them as well. Despite these guys being babies and therefore they shouldn't drop XPs, they were actually dropping XPs, which now they have removed. For some reason, Allays thought they were storing their items in their head. Notice this item kind of zips up to its head, so they fix it so Allays will go ahead and store them in the center of their body. Since you first have to kill a monster, therefore getting the Monster Hunter advancement before getting the Its Spread advancement, which also has to do with killing a mob, they put this one after the first. The last snapshot accidentally broke it, so you couldn't have a gas fireball actually hit the gas when reflected back. The propagate was looking really strange inside of pots, which has been changed. Going into realms is used to give you this message saying that your client is outdated even though you're using the most recent one, but since it's a snapshot, it didn't work. The FOV setting was accidentally saying speed effect as the thing it controls rather than just the view. When using different commands and the at options would come up, you can see that we actually have duplicates going on where we got 2 at A's as well as E's, P's, R's, and S's, and they went ahead and fixed this. In some cases, large amounts of command blocks were actually crashing servers. If you're one of those people that like to have your enter key as your way to open up your chat, problem is as soon as you hit the enter key and hold it, it just constantly opens it and closes it, which you'll no longer have problems with. The warden will no longer crash your game in some cases where it would get angry. They also fixed a few different issues to do with commands as well as formatting. In the 1980s snapshot, they came out with quite a few technical changes. Starting out with the chat previews, so when enabled, it's possible to see what you're typing out and how the colors of it's going to look as well as emojis before actually sending it so everybody can see. These messages are also securely signed, and you'll get a warning if servers have this enabled when you join a server. They also did some changes with command. Notice that the locate command now has locate biome, POI, as well as structure. So you're most familiarized with the structure one, which locates different structures such as villages and etc. But it can also go after stuff like where cats spawn, dolphins are located, and even where maps are at. The biome command will show you where all the different types of biomes in the world, and also find places like where surface slimes can spawn, where water is colored, or like where only gold and snow rabbits can spawn. Now the new POI has a bunch of other different things. POI stands for point of interest, so it includes all the different types of villager job sites. It also includes stuff like bee nest and like lightning rod. The place command also has a new sub command that is template, where if you make your own templates, then you can come in and actually paste them into the game. So you can actually summon in a structure, just like a structure block, without actually having to place down a structure block itself. As I do use structure blocks a lot, this is actually quite useful. There are some different parameters like the template, being the structure name, the rotation of it, want it to be mirrored or not, as well as the integrity. Now let's take a look at the other changes, including the warden's buffs. In my simple warden farm here, I had it so the warden would just spawn on top of this sign and fall down and be killed. But now they fixed this so that the wardens will no longer spawn on blocks with no collision. So I will once again have to update my farm, and this is why I don't do tutorials on some designs, because I know they'll probably get changed throughout the snapshots. But I will be doing them once the full release is out. Now with a game rule, you can turn off so the warden doesn't spawn into your world. So they went ahead and also made sure that the warden noises don't play as well. The warden attacking the dragon are supposed to be able to do damage to the dragon, but it seems that they don't do anything and they just push them about. They also added so wardens can now spawn when there is a layer of snow over blocks, so like in cold biomes. Now the warden's sonic attack will actually do more damage based off of the difficulty in the game. And dying to it will now count as the actual warden's kill. They also made the warden stronger by not being able to be pushed by explosions when emerging from the ground. Passive mobs are also smarter. If they get zapped by the warden, they'll take off running. The warden will no longer continue to sniff when being distracted now. You don't have to worry about the warden despawning when really far away from the player, just like other bosses. It also now gets mad at blazes when they hit it. It's also less likely to get distracted and will continue to chase after its target. It fixes it so that if you hold up your shield, it won't activate the warden or sensors. Also, right-clicking with bows, crossbows, tridents, spyglasses, or food will no longer activate the sensor. Big drip leaves will no longer constantly activate skulk sensors when nearby. They fix it so that mine shafts will no longer cut into ancient cities. I actually thought this was kind of a cool look. They change it so now players can fall off the edge of blocks even if they have knockback resistant armor like netherite, as well as holding down shift. And you can once again jump off the edge of a block while holding shift even if there's a block above you. When frogs spawn, hatch into tadpoles, they will no longer place them inside of blocks. They also made frogs smarter so they won't get stuck underneath the lily pads trying to get some air. The jigsaw block will no longer crash the game. We also got this tweet from Ulra, one of the developers, saying this tweet is related. In it, we can see that there is some sticky notes, the different pens and markers, and with the different colors, it does look like it's very similar to the sticky notes which he used to send those cryptic messages from earlier in the snapshot. If we take a look at this photo closer, we can see that he placed out 3 different colors here in the center with an X made with 2 markers that are similar color. Over here is probably the most interesting thing, and this is some sticky note. It looks like the sticky side is on this side, and it looks like something was drawn on it. It is kind of squarish, so it does remind you a bit like Minecraft. This is probably the top of the image, meaning these would be the sides of it. Some of these parts are shaded in. You can see this where this little piece here isn't. So turning it sideways, it kind of looks like a Minecraft helmet, but this being kind of like the nose protection piece and this little opening being the opening for the ear. Or also could be like a little shed or something. It's interesting how this part here is separated. Like this lower piece is different than this upper piece, which is a single piece. What do you guys think this might be, and how could it be related to Minecraft? Minecraft also came out with a video explaining why they're not going to add in the fireflies. Originally, they wanted the frogs to eat the fireflies, but since different types of fireflies in real life can actually be poisonous to frogs, they didn't want to introduce this into the game. So instead, they made it so that slimes will be a food source for the frogs. This means that fireflies are not going to be added in 1.19, even though they are kind of put off to the side as a possible future idea. There is no current plans for Minecraft to add them in, even in the future. They also mentioned birch forests, which are shown as concept art during the Minecraft Live event. This is where the birch forest would get upgraded to have like mushrooms and logs and overall just more life. They said that they are no longer going to add in the birch forest improvements, so we won't see the birch forest in 1.19 either. They also address bundles as well as goat horns. The bundles will eventually be added, but not in 1.19. They're having trouble getting all the different features that they want bundles to have, also accessible on other devices like phones. Whereas we know goat horns are going to be added in 1.19, but the copper goat horns was kind of a concept idea that they decided later to scrap, so we won't see those. They also talked about how mud lets the player sink down a little bit in Java Edition, but this is something they can't really add to Bedrock Edition due to a bug. But they're planning on fixing this for Bedrock at a later version. So maybe like 1.19.1, which makes me think that the wild update will come out relatively soon. When do you guys think it'll come out? Now, with a lot of the features that come out with 1.19 being kind of things that they already talked about 1.17 and 1.18, a lot of people are calling 1.19 the Caves update number 3. Especially now that a lot of the features such as like the fireflies, the birch forest, and even the bundles are getting canceled or pushed off into later versions, it ends up with a lot of focus being on the Warden as well as the Deep Dark Ancient Cities, which are all things that were talked about in 1.17, the initial Caves and Cliffs update. What do you guys think about these changes and how they show different things in Minecraft Live that don't always make it into the actual game? Do you think they should just not show stuff and that way people aren't disappointed if they can't actually get them into the game, or if they don't really go well with the update? Or do you think they should give us a lot of different options of things that could potentially be in the game, but explain to the players that only some of them will actually make it into the game? Now come head over to my live stream where we will be testing out the newest features for 1.19. Drop a follow over there while you're at it, and don't forget you can join me in game as I design all my crazy contraptions. Or check out these two playlists, this one about playing in a normal Minecraft world with 99% of all blocks removed, or this one all about other 1.19 changes. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye!